welcome back to our Golden 20s podcast. My name is Tegan, and I'm joined with my co-host Sadie, and we are back, hopefully in video format again. Thank you to our 11 YouTube subscribers who have joined our little group, but yeah, we're back, and we're doing a little Q&A episode because we've had some pretty rapid growth over the past couple of months, so we wanted to answer some of the questions of people who are maybe new listeners or, you know, that kind of thing, or people who have submitted questions that maybe wouldn't be enough for a full episode, but we still wanted to make sure they all got answered. So yeah, we're excited to some of your cues.
Yeah, some of your cues. I love that. And also, sorry, just going back to the video podcasting for a second, you can also watch video on Spotify. I know we keep like saying it's a YouTube thing, but if you are listening on Spotify, that's maybe how you submitted your questions. So
yeah,
that's another fun plug for that is we do put a question or poll in the, I guess it's kind of in the show notes area of each episode. So check that out. Yeah, as of last week, you can start seeing us on video, which I was saying to Tegan how much more stressful it is recording this podcast.
Yeah.
Because already I thought so much about the things I was going to say, how I come up, and now I also need to worry about how I look. And just before we started recording, I was having a breakdown around my ring light reflecting in my glasses. So that just goes to show how stressed I am about this. But all this to say, you can see us, and hopefully the ring light isn't too distracting. People are like, nobody noticed this except for you, but whatever.
I do wonder if there are people who have only ever like listened, if they saw our faces and were like, oh, they don't look different than what I thought.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. And even just like the vibe, because I feel like when you listen to, for instance, it's kind of like when you have a favorite song that you listen to on repeat and then you watch the music video and you're like, that is not how I imagined that song. Like that is not the vibe of that song at all.
Yeah.
But so I'm like, I don't know. Hopefully we're not a letdown. No, I think we're trying our best. And if you guys don't want to watch on video, obviously you don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always going to be audio. And if for whatever reason, you know, the video fails one week or whatever, we will still, without fail, be posting the audio. So do not worry. This has just been our fun little experiment to level up. So that's what's been going on. Yep. Yeah. Great.
I was going to say one day we're going to have glam squads. It's going to be like time to record the podcast. It's going to be like we're getting ready for like a red carpet. Glam squad, they're like, you know, doing our hair, doing our makeup, and we sit down. It's a high like budget production. Yeah. Oh yeah, guys. And we're going to look back on this video when the ring light was reflecting in my glasses. And be like, hey, we had to start somewhere.
I love those ones that have like full sets. That would be crazy. Yeah. Although that would mean we would have to like travel to do our podcast every single time. But we'd probably like the podcast would be our full-time job. So I could sacrifice leaving my house once a week. Probably.
True.
Yeah. I did want to say this random antidote before we got started because I heard this and was like, I need to share it with the podcast. As I said last week, I joined a hockey team. I'm the only girl. We're in the 18 plus adult safety hockey league. And my team is like my age and older, all men. They all work at a brewery together. So you can kind of picture them. And we had a game on Sunday. And the one player, he didn't play because he said he hurt his back going to the Era Tours movie. And I was like, what were you, like, were you dancing in the aisles? Were you doing flips? He said it was just from sitting in the chair, which seems unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I was like,
that's the worst. At least like play it off as like, I was doing flips down the aisle. Like I was crowd surfing say you hurt your back. Yeah.
Bring up the Eras Tour movie. Yeah. I felt inspired to bring it up because we talked so much about hockey players last week. And I was like, this is their true nature.
Their true colors.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
What a life.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that with us, Tag.
You're welcome.
Sorry that happened.
I'm sorry.
I don't
it's
know
my
how
life.
I'm supposed to. How am I supposed to respond? Wow. That's hilarious. I need to see the movie.
Me too.
I haven't even made effort to like look into showtimes or anything. So
me neither. I kind of don't want to. I've been waiting because I don't want to be in a theater where people are like dancing and screaming. I can deal with singing, but like we are not going to get Eras tickets where we currently stand, at least in our lives, with our current paychecks. And so I'm like, I want to like see it to like experience it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I haven't gone yet because I've been trying to avoid that. But
yeah, and I feel like we're not over it yet. At least me. I'm a Scorpio, guys. I'm not over it yet. Okay, so
yeah,
that's why
the tickets were also very expensive.
Were they?
I know they were. Yeah, they're like priced more. Yeah, they're priced more than regular movie tickets.
All right.
Is that triggering?
I think we should.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's like I think we should stop talking about
this. Move on. Now. Okay. Well, I will see it one day. I just haven't yet.
Same.
Anyways, time to get into some of your questions so we don't get ourselves canceled.
Exactly. That's the other thing. I'm like, let's move on because the Swifties are coming for us. I already know.
Yeah, I know.
So funny.
Oh, man. Okay, the first question we got submitted, which was submitted like very early. So kudos for you. It was the first one. And it was like our episodes go live at 1 a.m. Eastern time. And then I usually check around like 7:30 to make sure that they're actually up. And this was already in there. So I was like,
we love
damn. It. Yeah, within the first 7 hours. And so that said, do you guys have a Goodreads and can we add you? Also, I love this app. It was so funny. I'd love to hear more stories about when y'all go out to bars/dinner, etc. So thanks.
I love that. That's so nice. First of all, just focusing on the second half, as soon as I read this, I was like, Tag, do we have more like classic Tag and Sadie stories that we can just like whip out on the podcast? But I feel like we definitely want to do more of that. And it was something actually we kind of put out there at the beginning of season 3 on our Instagram stories. We were like, do you guys want more guests, more solo episodes? Do you want more like deep dives on certain topics? Do you want more life updates? And we were so surprised because people voted for solo episodes over guests, I believe. And then they voted for personal life updates way more than I thought, because I'm like, we're just,
who would care?
Like, yeah, exactly. At least that's what we think. So I don't know. I feel like it's nice to see that. And last week's episode was so much fun. If you didn't listen, please go listen. We have quite a few laughs and stories in there, but I feel like we have some plans coming up to do some like recaps, and even if it's like a seasonal recap, maybe a monthly recap. We have a trip to New York coming up kind of in the winter where we're already planning on doing like a trip recap. So I feel like we can maybe start doing more of those, and then it'll fill the whole like sharing stories. Not saying that every time we go to a bar we meet professional sports players.
I wish.
But yeah, right? Me too, honestly.
Yeah, and we don't actually go out that often either, because we are, I'm not going to say old, but we're older. Like, we're both, well, you're 27
Tegan?
for
Hold
a
on.
couple more days, but.
Yeah. Tegan's an old married woman, okay? So, no, I'm kidding.
I got to stay at home.
I'm like, I need to go out for the content, man. People need me to deliver. Yeah.
We can do it. I can make the sacrifice and leave my house. I feel like all of my stories are just like weird. Like I don't know. That story that we told about like meeting those baseball players last week felt very glamorous, but I feel like that's not what it's usually like for us. Like I feel like it's like nasty and gross. Like Toronto is not like a glamorous city to me. It's like, I don't know.
I think it's how you perceive it.
Maybe.
Like, and also that night we were living our most glamorous lives. Like I was like, tonight we are the women we always aspire to be. Yeah. So it was like, that was the vibe we're putting out. That was the vibe we were getting. So we just need to take that mindset. I don't know. I feel like I do have, I don't know. I kind of romanticize my life. So I feel like I always perceive things as very like funny or like glamorous,
Right.
even if they're not. But I can't think of anything right now. But next time I down and
I'll
report
share
back
it.
to the pod.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
anyways,
as far as our like Goodreads go, I think we can like link them in the show notes or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not, I feel like this is not going to be very exciting, but you can see what we read and how we rate everything and follow us or be our friends. I don't know the terminology, but yeah.
Yeah, we definitely can. I was trying to find if we have like usernames on Goodreads. I literally go on Goodreads just to see how I'm tracking on my yearly book goal. Like,
me too.
I'm not, my sister uses it like social media, and I'm like, I don't. I just put in my shit to track it. But anyways, all that to say, I don't think we have usernames. I think it's just under our name.
Just our names.
So yeah, we'll just put it in the show notes. That's probably the easiest way to find it.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, we do get sent book PR. So that's kind of interesting. Like sometimes we get, I'm trying to like justify why people would want to follow us there, but we sometimes read books like before the release, but maybe you just want to see what we like rate and read things. And yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I'm overthinking it, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's the first question. Second question was how to adjust to jet lag. I live between Germany and Indonesia. So I feel like I haven't experienced like big jet lag in a while just because I haven't traveled since pre-pandemic to like probably my last big trip was Bali, speaking of Indonesia, back in 2020. But since then, I really haven't gone to like Europe or anything where the time zone is super different. Obviously, I went to Mexico, but that was just a 2-hour difference. And any other trips that I've gone on have been fairly local. So I'll just say I don't have like recent experience, but something I tried to do in my past trips as well is just to like, this is something I say to answer any question ever, is like just take care of yourself as much as possible. And this means like drinking lots of water, getting lots of sleep. And that's leading up to your vacation, making sure you're, well rested and going to be in your best like mindset and like best version of yourself when you show up on your trip or in the place that you're going. But that also means, trying to sleep on the plane if it's an overnight flight, or I don't know, just things like that. Also like eating and like drinking lots of water once you're there and just continuing to take care of yourself. So that's the biggest thing. And then probably my second biggest thing is I try to power through as much as possible. And I'm never like, oh, it's this time back home, but it's this time here. No wonder I feel this way. Like, I'm like, no, this is the time it is now, wherever I am, and I'm going to kind of act accordingly. And obviously that's a lot easier said than done, but it's like, just because it's, I don't know, 5 p.m. and I'm tired doesn't mean I'm going to go to bed. Like, I'm going to get up, get out, and like force myself to make it to 9 p.m., which in my mind is a reasonable time to go to bed, And then it's like, again, just trying to like power through as much as possible. So again, that's easier said than done, but I think there's things you can do to try to kind of refresh yourself without taking a nap or sleeping. And that could be as simple as taking a nice shower, like a nice cold shower to wake yourself up, or going out for a walk, getting some fresh air. And this also sounds kind of counterproductive or counterintuitive, but also exercising can give you like a jolt of energy rather than taking a nap. So it could just be, you do that instead of napping to power through and try to, I guess, keep on a sleep schedule that is relevant to that time zone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with the powering through. That's something that I always try to do if I'm traveling somewhere with a time change. And that applies to like meal times too. Like, I get that sometimes you're hungry at weird times, but I'll have like a little snack and then still try to be like eating at the appropriate times because I just feel like that helps my body too. And yeah, when I wake up, I always try to get in like direct sunlight because I feel like that can help. And
Yeah.
if you're going on vacation, like it sounds like this is someone who lives there, so you would be getting up probably to like work and that kind of thing. But if you're going for vacation, usually in the first couple of days, I'll try to book something that will force me to be like awake at an appropriate time, if that's applicable for the time zone. So if it's like, I don't know, to wake up at 9 a.m. might be a hardship, but it's like I'll book a yoga class purposefully then, because then it's like I'm forced to get up, and then once I'm up, I'll stay up, and that can sort of help. I also find that if you have like a bedtime routine, it can be really helpful to stick to it, even when you're traveling. If like every single night when you're at home, you do your skincare, you read, you're not on your phone, and that's how you go to bed. It's like if continue to do that, and that can sort of signal your brain. And I like to sort of view it as an opportunity to like reset your internal clock too, which could be nice depending on which way the time change goes. Like I've traveled to Hawaii before and it's 6 hours, but it's like you wake up 6 hours early, which is lovely. So it's like you wake up at 6 a.m. in Hawaii, sunrise. Obviously the other way is a lot less fun, but I still think it's like a good opportunity to be like, okay, we're resetting what time do I want to wake up. I'm going to be tired anyways, so let's like get this started on the right foot, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I love the internal reset.
Yeah. Our next question was how to navigate finances and what's the deal with investing. And the first thing that came to mind for me, especially for people in their 20s, is to not ignore your finances. I know so many people, and a lot more when I was in my early 20s, who would not look at their credit card, would not look at their bank account. And it's stressful. I get it, especially when you have not a lot of money. It's stressful. But like you need to know what your financial situation is. And that's the first step towards, I think, having a good financial power in your life. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that, I want to say, is probably the biggest thing. If you're like, I just ignore my bank account, I hope my paycheck goes in there. Like, you should be keeping track of that, because if you miss getting paid once a month, which has happened to me, and you're not checking it, that's a bummer for you. If you get charged for something on your credit card, which has also happened to me, that you did not purchase, like you have to flag that with your credit card company within an appropriate amount of time. So it's like you also just need to be looking out for yourself, I think.
Yeah, that's so true. It's funny because when I was in school and had zero money, I was obsessed with checking my bank account, because I was like, I have no money. Where the money I do have, I need to know where it's going, how it's being spent. Right. Like, I was way more on top of it. I would check my bank account multiple times a day without even like knowing I hadn't spent any money. But that's obviously like deep rooted financial insecurity. But I'm like, I think you can be both ways, but I think really what we're trying to get at is like, try and create a positive relationship with money, and like, don't be afraid of what you see. I think it's important to be realistic with it. For me, the first thing that came to mind was, speaking of being realistic, is taking an honest look at what your financial goals are, and then prioritizing your spending based off of that. And I did like a whole episode a few weeks ago about how I manage my money, how I manage to save money despite, traveling and shopping and things like that. So maybe go give that episode a listen. Shameless plug for my solo episode. But really, I think if you listen to that episode, you'll hear that what's important to me is not typically, important to other people, or like it's not what you hear. But again, I know what's important to me, and then I spend my money according to that. So it's like, it's more important to me to live in Toronto and pay over $2,000 in rent for my apartment than to live in a small town where rent is maybe under $1,000. It's more important for me to do that. So I think once you're kind of know what your goals are. And this could also be, so for instance, what's important to you. I just said like living in the city is important to me, traveling is important to me, things like that. But then I think also coming up with an idea of what are you saving for, you know, kind of building up like a savings, like an emergency savings fund, and then maybe having another account where you're saving towards a certain goal, if it's buying a car or if it's buying a house or, you know, things like that, maybe launching a business, whatever it is. I think it's just important to have direction and then kind of make decisions in your daily life, keeping those priorities in mind.
Yeah, 100%. We also have, since we're plugging old episodes, an episode where we talk to Rennie the Resource. And so this was season 2, episode 8. And we went into the details of like how to have a better relationship with money and the like 101 basics of investing, which I thought that Rennie was amazing. She also has like a YouTube channel. She's very active on all the social platforms with like little tips and tricks. She like purchased her own home, and so she's killing it. And so that I think is another good episode to listen to if you haven't yet.
Yeah, especially around the investing side, because I love this question. Yeah. What's the deal with investing? And why I love that so much is because I really didn't have any financial literacy up until like a few years ago. And the idea of investing really intimidated me. So it's like, what is the deal with this? And I think going back to kind of how I was raised and whatever, I think in my mind, it was always like, in order to have a lot of money, you have to work really hard. And I think the biggest unlock with investing is you don't always, like, yes, you need to work hard to, you know, earn money. You have to have a job and income, whatever. But it's also what you do with that money can really make a difference. And investing, like, that's where investing comes in. So it is 1000% worthwhile to educate yourself. I think starting with Rennie the Resource is amazing. I've learned a lot just watching her YouTube channel. There's also books out there. Like I read The Wealthy Barber. There's 2 books for that now. Another book I just added to my TBR, which you would see on Goodreads, is I Will Teach You to Be Rich. I've been hearing a lot about that lately. So I think there's less intimidating ways to learn about this. And then once you do, you know, feel like you have goals, you have your priorities, you have kind of the basic understanding, or at least have an interest in learning more, I also think it can be a great idea to connect with a financial advisor. And that's typically a service available at your bank. And why this is so important is just to remember that while you can read books and take courses and watch YouTube videos, it's often very generic that you're learning about this type of stuff, which is important. But finances are so personal. Those goals that you set, your priorities are so personal to you. We're working with a financial advisor. They're taking into account your specific financial situation, your specific financial goals, and they can give you personalized advice to make that come to life. If it's through investing, if it's through, you know, different types of accounts, how much you should be putting into those accounts, things like that. So reach out for help, essentially, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, totally agree. Like your bank wants you to have more money because then you'll put more money in their bank. So they're there to try and help you, you know, make that money. Like my bank helped me set up my TFSA, my RRSP. They helped me like recommend how much I should be putting in each month and set it so it was automatic. Like they're there to make it easier for you to build your money basically, because that is a good incentive for them. So totally agree.
Yeah. Awesome. The next question is how to adjust quickly of change of routine when you move every 1 to 3 months. So I feel like this, a lot of kind of what we said almost for the jet lag almost applies to this. And I think the first thing I want to say is that we talk so much about routine on the podcast. We talk about like updating your routine and like evaluating your routine and, you know, changing the things that aren't working. But it is very hard when your routine isn't working to know how to change it, or if it's constantly changing all the time. And really the only experience I have with this outside of like seasonal updates to my routine and whatnot is through the pandemic. I was spending about 2 weeks in my apartment here in Toronto, and then I would go stay with my parents for 2 weeks at their place outside of the city. And it was really tough at first because it was literally like just like totally different environment, totally different, I felt like I had to do a different routine. And I don't know, it was also tough to be like on my own, then back living with my parents for half a month kind of thing. But all this to say, I think the most important thing to do is like be compassionate with yourself. Like for me, anytime I don't adjust to something quickly, if it's a new routine, if it's a new skill, if it's a new task at work, immediately I get frustrated and I'm like, why is this taking so long to figure out? Meanwhile, it's only been 1 week of your new routine. So the biggest thing I want to say is just acknowledge that it is hard, validate that experience, and remind you to be compassionate with yourself. However, what did help me was finding parts of my routine that I could stay consistent with despite if I was at my apartment or with my parents. And what that looked like, kind of what we were saying again with the whole jet lag thing, was finding parts of your routine that aren't environment dependent, aren't time dependent. So it's like the time I go to bed and wake up, like that can stay the same. Once I wake up, maybe it's the routine of taking my vitamins, doing my skincare routine, making coffee. Like, again, that's not environment dependent. I can continue to have that same morning routine every day, or your wind down routine, like Tegan said, if it's doing your skincare routine, reading a book, going to bed. I think you can keep those little routines the same regardless of where you are. And then also outside of that, or maybe part of those routines, is also finding grounding practices. And maybe you're like rolling your eyes at me when I say that because it sounds kind of like, I don't know, spiritual and a little out there. But I think what I mean by that is just finding things where you feel like you can just relax, unwind, and be yourself, again, regardless of where you are. So for me, that looks like, journaling, maybe in the morning, or maybe it's right before bed, doing yoga, going for a walk, anything where you can just kind of like be with yourself. I think that's really important when you are in a time of change. And then maybe it's working those grounding practices into your routine, and they become kind of those like consistent parts of your routine, regardless of where you are.
Yeah, totally agree. I also feel like if you're traveling with other people, whether it's like a partner or your parents, it's important to kind of carve space for yourself. Like I find sometimes as someone with a partner, the norm is like to just spend all your time with them and then be like, well, I didn't have any time to do the things I need to do to feel better. So it's your sort of like responsibility to like carve the time. If you need to have like a bedtime routine to make yourself feel better, like set that time aside for you as well.
Totally. I love that.
Great. Our next question was submitted by me because I randomly thought of it this week and was curious. And this is, which boyfriend from Sex and the City would you date? Also, for those who aren't watching, my cat is here. So this is her first like video cameo, but
she's here every week, guys. Usually she has a lot to say too, and we can never get it on mic. She did meow,
but I was strategically moving the mic. But she's here living her best life, and as she leaves, okay, bye,
she's
girl.
Our third host. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, Tag. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna let you down with this answer. None of them are coming to mind. I'm really only thinking, initially I was only thinking of Carrie's boyfriend. Then I was like, okay, I should probably think of the other characters as well. Open the pool a little bit more.
Sure.
And I still can't decide.
They all have their flaws for sure, but.
Yeah, and in the sense where I wasn't ever watching it being like, oh my God, I love him. Like, it was like, I don't know. My dream man was not casted in Sex and the City.
I
What
feel
would you
like
say?
I would say Aiden. I think that
Okay.
he's the most like my husband. And Aiden, at least with his like little introduction when he's still like a furniture worker and he wears like turquoise jewelry and all denim, like I thought that was a vibe. I don't think Carrie should have ended up with him. I think that Carrie and Big fully deserve each other and they should just be together and stop bugging other people. I do see a lot of people, like the big debate is who's the better boyfriend, Steve or Harry. But yeah, I still pick Aiden. I do love Harry though.
Yeah.
So
Me too. Yeah, I don't know. I forgot about Harry for a second. Why did I
feel
forget about
like
him?
you I don't know why, but like Smith is coming to mind for me. Like
For me?
yeah, because he's just like his own little independent dude. Like Sam gets to be her own person, and he's, you know.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well, but then I was like, I don't know. I also didn't see the movies, so kind of the
Yeah, I'm not counting any of that.
Okay, perfect. Because I feel like there's a whole plot in there with Smith and Samantha that I don't really know that much. But I don't know.
Interesting.
I agree that Aiden is the best boyfriend for Carrie, or the best of her boyfriends. However, I agree with you that he's too good for her.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Or you could just pick like a random boyfriend, although they are all really weird. Like, none of them I feel like they are normal. But
yeah. Should we just go with Smith for me? Is that
sure?
Is that the final verdict?
Sure.
I don't know
someone
how I feel about that, but
comment on one of our TikToks about how much we hated Burger, and they were like, he was even worse than the guy in the mental hospital. And I was like, I like the guy in the mental hospital. He's played by David Duchovny. Like, yeah, he's kind of crazy, but
too.
You know,
but hey,
he's
we're all
doing his
going
best.
through our shit. Yeah. Oh my god, that's funny. No, Burger's the ultimate worst. I would choose Big over Burger.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I was like, is that
how do we feel about, I don't know why I'm like falling down this rabbit hole now. How do we feel about the guy who lived with his parents and worked in the comic book shop?
Let me try and remember this. Who was it? Does she like go to his family's house or something?
Yeah. He like takes her to an arcade on the first date and then they scoot her home and she was like, I don't scoot on the first date. And it's the one where
I can't remember too much.
Her parents it's like one of my favorite episodes. This is why it's ingrained in my brain. His parents come back and they're smoking weed and then they're like, who brought this weed into my innocent son's house? And she's like, I did, and I'm taking it with me. You remember this?
Yeah,
because that guy has a soft spot in my heart for some reason.
I can tell.
He's only one episode. It's just one of my favorite episodes. I find it so funny. But
what season is that? Because I think I'm. This is the other thing where I'm like 3? Rewatching. Okay,
I don't know.
Maybe I'm past that. I don't know. Where I'm rewatching right now, so I'm like, all I can think of are like the characters right now.
Yeah.
Where Smith's not even in it yet, like things like that. Harry's not in it, but that's funny. I totally forgot about that guy.
There are some winners.
There is, but hey, that's the dating life. You never know what you're gonna get. And I also think it's a good reminder that the perfect person doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to be a downer. Yeah, not to be a downer, but it's like, even you as a person, you know, like you're not going to be exactly perfect the way you are for someone else. Like you're going to, I don't know, you have to navigate things and figure things out together, and that's normal, and that's why the show is the best, because it normalizes that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to think.
That's okay. I mean,
I'm gonna have to like journal about this tonight, like extensively, like pro con, like charts for every guy in the show.
Yeah. Well, now, okay, switching gears to Gilmore Girls. Are you team Logan, Jess, or Dean?
Okay. For Rory or for me? Actually, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
it doesn't
okay.
matter. The answer is almost the same. This is a hot take, and don't ask me about Lorelai because I have the hottest take of all hot takes.
God. Yeah, I don't even want to know.
For Rory and for me, I'm Team Logan. I like Jess, okay? But Jess, again, going through his shit, I don't think they're like, you know, Jess isn't ready for Rory. Even in the end, like when he comes back, I'm like, I like this, but it just isn't meant to be for me. Like, again, Team Jess over Team Dean, 1000%. Jess is like everything to me in my head, and maybe this is everyone's head. I think he grows up to be the dad, and This Is Us. You know, like this is Jess's story. He ends up becoming this great guy, and we love that for Jess, but I don't think he was for Rory. I liked Logan a lot. Everyone's always like, Rory, like Logan made Rory this awful person, and like she's, you know, blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, Logan had nothing to do with that. Like Logan obviously
she was
had
awful
his problems as well, but she was going through her own shit. Like, all of the decisions she made had absolutely nothing to do with Logan. So I really like Logan, and I think out of all these shows, Logan is probably the most my type, not just because he's like rich and like wealthy, but like just his charisma, his like personality. Yeah, I'm 1000% attracted to this, you know? So that's it for me, 1000%.
I am also Team Logan. I do not like Jess at all. And I don't really have reasons. Like there is the one scene, which obviously this show's from a long time ago, so it's not as significant then, I'm sure, where he's like very pressury around sex, which like is red flag city. But even just like in general, I just don't like his vibe. I just find him
he's
so
a bad boy,
rude. Yeah, I don't like that. I'm like, be nice to Lorelai.
See, no, I love that. And I feel like that's a character where it's like the misunderstood bad boy meets the good girl who only she understands him. Like that's the romance of it, you know? And it's like he'll only be good for her. Like it's romantic, I think, and I like that. But it's like, does Rory need that? No. You know?
No. Yeah. I'm like, she's got enough going on in her life. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So I agree with Team Logan for her.
Okay. Perfect. Well, there we go. I was way more prepared to talk about that.
For a fight? No.
No, I was aligned to talk about that over Sex in the City.
Oh, I see what you mean. I thought you were like, I was prepping in case you were like, how dare you?
No. Do you want to hear my hot take about Lorelai?
Is it that
this is going to get me canceled?
Be with... Oh, God. I can't even... Okay.
I told my sister this. My sister knows every single thing about me. I'm pretty sure Tegan's the first person I ever told my opinion to. And then I told my sister, and my sister was shook. She's like a bigger Gilmore girl than I am. She, like I said, knows absolutely everything about me. And she was like, I never saw this coming. And God. I am disgusted by you. So my hot take, and the whole world disagrees with me, but I stand by it. I think Lorelai and Christopher are soulmates.
Oh my God, that is foul.
I do.
That's disgusting.
I think Luke is the best character in the whole show. Like he's literally the best. That is without a doubt. But it goes back what we were saying about Carrie and Big, okay? Where it's like, or Carrie and Aiden, sorry. Where it's like, Aiden's too good for Carrie. You know, she just fucks up. She's like self-centered, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I have the same opinion about Lorelai and Luke. And I'm like, Christopher and Lorelai just have the history. They have the chemistry. Like they are the same person. Which I know sometimes opposites attract, you know, like if you're the same person, it's not always compatible. But watching it, I'm like, this is great. And I think, again, the whole 7th season of Gilmore Girls was written by different writers, different producers, different end to the show. And then that, I think, is what messed up the narrative around Lorelai and Christopher. I feel like I'm like saying a conspiracy theory, but I'm like, had they never, maybe spoilers, but I'm like, had they didn't if they didn't have the plot of getting married and like
that's
it not working out, people wouldn't be so heated about my opinion. But I'm like, if we just disregarded this, like, I don't know. That's my hot take.
See, Christopher is like one of my most hated characters. Like, I will not watch episodes that he's in. And so I just got to season 7 and I'm just like, I'm not going to watch it because he just bugs me. I don't know what it is, but he's very annoying.
He is, but he has character growth. And what I like is character growth, you know? So I'm like, this is why, and I see it along their like journey where I'm like, I see character growth. I see how this could be something great, but I didn't ever want it for like then the family ends up happy together. Like I wasn't romanticizing that at all, but it was just like, no, you cannot deny that there's the most chemistry between
oh my god
Lorelai and Christopher.
I will deny it now. That is insane. Oh my god, I'm getting so sweaty. You're like stressing me out by saying these things.
You're like we're co-hosts. If one of us goes down, the other goes down too. Like it's inevitable.
Gilmore Girls fans, I'm not with her. Like oh my god. I just saw Taylor Swift said Gilmore Girls was her favorite show. In Vogue.
I saw, I hope I don't ruin this for anybody, but I saw somebody say how Lorelai Gilmore and Taylor Swift have like the exact same personality, and now I can't unsee it.
Oh.
It's almost ruining Gilmore Girls for me right now, where I'm like, But for me, I'm like, in my mind, because this is the case for me, Lorelai came first. So I'm like, this is the Lorelai here. Like I have to put my mental blocks up. Be like, no, this is Lorelai. You're watching Lorelai.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't unsee it.
Wow. What a fun little rabbit hole we've fallen down. Moving on from 90s and early 2000s TV shows. A question a question we received was, do you prefer dating apps versus IRL dating? And I have been in a relationship for 10 years, but I'm still going to guess that 99% of people would say IRL dating.
I feel like nobody can trust anything I say anymore. They're like,
true.
Whatever this girl's opinion is, I don't want to hear it after the whole Gilmore Girls thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my opinion as someone who is single and dating. I think meeting someone in person is almost preferred because you can pick up their vibe a lot quicker. You know, like it's like immediately you can hear their voice, you can see their mannerisms, you can see the way they interact with the world, and that can really dictate if you vibe with someone or not. And it's kind of like, okay, going back to another favorite thing from my childhood is like Sims. You know, when like a sim would walk in and then it's like they get like hearts around it and then it's like, oh, so-and-so just walked in. Like you almost can feel that in person with some people and you're just like, I don't know what it is, but like there's something that's like a vibe between us. Where on dating apps, you obviously don't get that and you see kind of what they want you to see. So it's like, oh, he's really athletic and sporty, but that's just because he has 5 pictures of that one time he played in a hockey game. You know, like you don't really get the vibe the same. However, all that being said, I think it's a lot obviously easier for dating apps to meet people. There's also, as much as I was just saying, you know, the profile might not be completely accurate or like completely show a vibe, there is at least something there to start a conversation. So it's like, oh,
right.
I was going to crack an awful like fish joke, but I decided not to. But, you know, you have something rather than just like pulling out conversation from thin air, being like, hey, how's your night going? Whatever. And there's also like obviously a mutual interest if you both liked each other and like matched. So it's like permission to approach kind of thing and like start conversation, where in real life, maybe there in a relationship you don't know, or maybe they're worried you're in a relationship so they never come over and talk to you, or whatever it is. So there's pros and cons to both. I feel like for me, going back to the whole it's easier to date in dating apps, my strategy is like it's easier to find people and start the conversation in dating apps, but then I prefer in real life dating, so it's like get them off the app as soon as possible kind of thing and meet up with them in person. So it's a little bit of the best of both worlds. You find the person on the app, but then you do like a quick vibe check in the app, and then you're in person first date to actually start asking questions and getting to know each other. I don't like getting to know each other via text and app and everything else.
True.
Complicated answer, maybe.
No, I think that makes sense.
Did I regain my credibility? Does that sound legit?
No.
And if his name is Christopher. No.
Oh my God. Even that name, barf. Sorry to all the Christophers listening, but that name has been ruined. Oh
God,
man.
so
Okay.
funny.
So this next question's related, and it's how do you date without dating apps? And
we have episodes on this as well. I don't remember which ones exactly. I think we maybe did one rounding up the best dating advice from TikTok around Valentine's Day this year.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was in that one. And regardless, that I remember after we recorded that episode, I was like, that was one of my favorite episodes ever. Like, it was so fun. We talked about your guys' celebrity crushes in that. Like, it was just so much fun. The best rom-coms, things like that. But then we got into dating advice from TikTok, and a lot of it was like this exactly. How do you date in real life? How do you meet people in real life? So go give that a listen. I think the high level like cheat sheet or the takeaways from that is really you just need to put yourself out there and kind of view every opportunity that you leave the house as an opportunity to meet someone. And part of that is showing and expressing to the people that you interact with when you are out that you're open to meeting new people. So that's, you know, making eye contact. It's smiling at people. It's entertaining small chat, or maybe even being the one to say good morning to that cute person you see on your commute every morning. Like, it's you showing. Actually, there's this theory on, I think actually maybe it started on Sex in the City, but the whole idea of having your light on or like turning on your green light to essentially signify to other people, hey, I'm single and interested in like getting to know you. So I think that's important, but all of that is communicated through your body language and how you kind of are interacting with the people that you are coming across when you are out.
Yeah. I feel like it's almost like simple, but in like stupid ways, where it's like if there's a guy you see that you think is cute and there's an open seat beside him, like sit in the seat. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be a big complicated plan. It can just be like, go say hi to that guy, sit next to the cute guy at the bar. If you think, I don't know, that guy's interesting looking, sit beside him on the bus or whatever it might be. Like, I feel like it comes down to being a lot of just like simple things like that, like making eye contact.
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
know. Looking
happy.
I have a smiling at
I have
people.
a story. It didn't happen to me, unfortunately, but one day it will. And it's the classic example of this. So I just watched Love at First Sight on Netflix, which was a super cute movie, rom-com. Definitely recommend you watch it if you're looking for like a good chick flick. But the whole plot is essentially these two strangers meet in an airport on their way to London, and then plot twist, not plot twist, spoiler alert, they fall in love. So I just watched this movie. So did my friend that I went to Mexico with. Then we go to the airport at like 7 a.m. to board our 10 a.m. flight to Mexico. And we're sitting at our gate. We order breakfast and we're just chatting, catching up. And all of a sudden we notice that this movie plot is unfolding before our eyes at the table right next to us. And I text Tegan all about it because I was like, this is how I'm going to meet my soulmate. Like, this is how it's happening. But literally, it's exactly what Tegan was saying, where these two people clearly didn't know each other. However, they chose to sit at a long communal table despite both being by themselves. And they sat pretty much across from each other. Like, I can't even remember who was sitting there first, but whoever was sitting there, the person chose to sit across from them and over one rather than sitting at the complete opposite end of the table,
Right.
which is where I would have sat. I probably actually would have sat at the same table I sat at with my friend, which was like a table for two, you know what I mean? It wasn't a
Yeah.
communal table. And
Yeah.
had I sat at the communal table to try and be open, like I would have sat at the other end, because had I sat next to them or across from them when the whole table's empty, I would have felt weird, you know, and like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
want to feel like I'm trying too hard. But you have to put
Mm.
yourself in those positions if this is your goal. And this is me giving
Right.
myself a pep talk as much as it's giving whoever's listening to this a pep talk, because it is uncomfortable, but that's the only way this other person's gonna pick up on the vibe. And what ended up happening, I don't know the whole story, obviously. I can tell you what happens in the movie, but I don't know what happened to these two people, but they did end up packing up their stuff and then going and boarding their flight together. So I was like, who knows, you know, maybe this is literally the movie. Like maybe they end up sitting beside each other on the plane, they exchange phone numbers, they meet up once they're in whatever destination they're in. Like who knows how this story goes from here, but the most important part is that the story started. So that's all you have to do. Put yourself in the position to start the story. And my story obviously takes place at the airport, sitting at a communal table, but it goes back to like, you could be doing this at a coffee shop, you know, rather than sitting at least some coffee shops that, like, there's a really nice Starbucks Reserve not far from my house, and they have like so many long communal tables. It's like, sit at that rather than at a little table for two. Or they also have kind of like a bar to sit at, since it's a Starbucks Reserve. Maybe you sit there and do some work rather than staying at your house or whatever. Like you were saying, Tag, go to the bar, sit at the bar rather than sitting at a table. Even when you go with your friends, choose to sit at the bar. It could also be like seeking out actual events and stuff to meet people, to put yourself out there. If you're in Canada, I recommend looking up Flair events. It's like speed dating, but they also do dating events. So one I did was like a cocktail making class, and then there was speed dating after it, but they do like axe throwing. They'll also do just straight up speed dating with no activity involved. But look that up. It's in, I think, almost all the major cities here in Canada. But if you're not in Canada, just go on Eventbrite and look up like dating events, speed dating. Like this is a great way to know everyone going has the same intentions of you, of meeting people. Everyone going is single, probably, hopefully. And, you know, again, it's kind of like a dating app, but it works in the same way as a dating app, but is all in real life. But again, outside of that, going to the gym, picking up a new hobby or trying out new classes, saying yes, going out to parties when people invite you, like you just need to put yourself out there.
Yeah, 100%. Even just like little
rant.
things like, no, I loved it.
Sorry.
Like not having your headphones on, like if you're going to work in a coffee shop, or like smiling, or like being the person to start the conversation. If you're, you know, wanting to sit beside someone, you can ask like, hey, is this seat open? And smile and make eye contact. And if they want to talk to you, that's you telling them, hey, you can talk to me, you know? So
yeah,
it seems complicated, but it's simple.
It's really not.
I think.
Yeah. And I think
it sounds simple at least.
Yeah. And my problem, and I think probably a lot of people feel this way as a woman, especially, it's like, okay, but if I'm turning on my green light for the good guys, that often also turns on the green light for the guys I don't want to talk to me. So I think you also, it's kind of goes back to like, don't count yourself out before you even count yourself in. Like I think we've brought that kind of saying up so many times in so many different aspects of the podcast, but I think this goes for it, where it's like, just because you're afraid of one thing happening, it's limiting you from even giving something else the possibility of happening. And again, this is me giving myself this pep talk, since I am bitch face. As soon as I step out of the house, I'm like, I dare you to mess with me. I dare you to talk to me. Like that's the vibe I give off. Headphones in, no eye contact. So I don't know. I think it's all in perspective and how you show up in the world.
Yeah, totally. Well, and just think, now going forward, any little freaks who come to talk to you, you can come and tell your story on the podcast. And then at least you'll have stories to tell.
Oh, goodness.
I do feel like, as someone in a relationship, a lot of the people who talk to me are older. which I kind of like.
Oh man,
I like chatting to the old fellas at the bar. They're always like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Just hanging out. What are you doing here?" So at least that's positive.
Yeah, that
I
is
guess.
very true. That is a classic Tegan Friday night out story
chatting
if I've
to
ever
an old
heard one.
fella. I think it's actually because I go to dive bars where it's all old people.
Yeah,
and me.
And the you're listening to typically country music because that's what your husband's band is. So I feel it's just the demographic those bars and scene bring out. But
they do always buy me drinks though, because they're excited to have a friend to chat to. So
a pretty young girl that just want to buy a drink for.
They're like, "You're keeping the music scene alive." I'm like, "You're right."
You're like, right, I deserve this drink.
Right. Yeah.
So funny. As long as it's the older men at the bar rather than the older men in your DMs being like, "Hey, need a sugar daddy?"
Yeah. Or I've had Uber drivers as they're driving me someplace. And I'm like, "Are you going to abduct me?"
Oh gosh.
So that's bad.
Yeah. Okay, but we really need to change the narrative around your going out stories.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. That's so funny. Well, there we go.
I think.
Yeah, we've gone on so many rants. Me specifically, things people didn't even want to hear, but that's how it goes sometimes. But thank you guys so much for listening. That's all the questions we're going to answer today, but we will definitely do another Q&A in the future. So make sure you are following us on social media at Our Golden 20s. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest. We have Spotify playlists, all the places. But anyways, that's how you can submit for our next Q&A. You can also, like we said, submit topics you want us to talk about or questions, literally anything you want to say. You can also submit on Spotify. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify right now, we have a little question box on every episode, so feel free to reach out to us that way. And you can also find us on Patreon, which is the best way to support the podcast for as little as $2 a month. And this is also a place where we're really wanting to lean into community, lean into engaging with you guys, giving you guys a lot more value than we can give you in just a hour episode every week. So go join our community there and you can chat with us there as well. But that is everything. We drop a new episode every Tuesday. We also appreciate it if you give us a rating, give us a review, all of that. But that is it, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye.